3 sinister close encounters, terrifying tales of haunted experiences you've never discovered. Lisa walked into her dimly lit home, her heart heavy from the late shift at the diner. The silence wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud, amplifying the shadows that danced across the walls. She dropped her bag, and moments later, the clatter echoed through the empty rooms. Her kids, Emily and Max, should have been asleep, but their absence sent a shiver down her spine. She drew a breath, forcing herself to shake off the creeping anxiety. It was just another Tuesday night, just another day trying to stay afloat. As she moved toward her bedroom, something caught her eye, a flyer protruding from her front door. Neighborhood watch meeting, it declared with cheer, the bright colors an unsettling contrast to the gloom inside. It was Greg, her ever-smiling neighbor, who had taken it upon himself to protect the community. Something inside Lisa twisted as she thought of his too watchful eyes, always lingering a beat too long. But what else could she expect in a town that had seen better days? She sighed, brushing aside the unease. A community meeting could help, she needed to feel safe. Days passed with a disturbing rhythm. Shadows flickered in her yard, darting just out of sight, and whispers grazed her ears when the wind howled through the trees. It was always darker than it should be outside, the moon hanging low like a sinister eye. She swallowed hard, focusing on the mundane pleasures of motherhood, yet the uneasiness nagged like a sharp thorn buried deep. Then came the night when she uncovered the journal. Groaning floorboards revealed secrets about the family who had lived in her home before her, a family that disappeared entirely. The pages were stained, their words hinting at horrifying rituals, shadows lurking, a web that ensnared the unwary. Lisa's pulse raced as her mother's old words echoed in her mind, "Trust no one." The weight of fear suddenly bore down on her, a monstrous foe she had tried to ignore. Before she could reach out for support at the block party, Lisa felt the glance of every neighbor turn icy. Their laughter, once a sound of innocence, became a chorus mocking her fears. "You're just stressed, Lisa," one woman said, dismissing her frantic worries without a second thought. Panic surged. Could her fears be true? What if the whispers belonged to the very people who smiled at her every day? When she lost Max, everything shattered. He was just gone, disappeared from the joyful chaos around them. A scream crawled up her throat as she sought him through the crowd, but her heart pounded distinctly against the hollow ache in her chest. Greg's blue eyes met hers with an unsettling calm. It was as if he had known more than he let on. The air turned cold as she felt his gaze crawl all over her, her instincts screaming that he was somehow involved. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night air thickened, palpable with a terror thriving in the darkness around her, closing in like a vice. Every muscle in Lisa's body screamed to flee, but she was rooted by something deeper, a dread that her children had become player pawns in a game she couldn't comprehend. As she raced back home, determination fueling every step, she felt eyes watching her from behind the very walls she called safe. Had her trust in this community betrayed her? Had she unwittingly invited danger into her home? On the edge of her porch, shadows twisted ominously against the dull glow of a nearby streetlight, urging her to question everything. Each heartbeat reminded her of what she stood to lose. Would she uncover the truth lurking within her own home? Or would she lose everything, her children, her sanity, to the very community she thought she could count on? Lisa flung open her front door, panic rising in her chest. The darkness swirled around her like a storm, thick and suffocating. Her home, once a sanctuary, felt like a trap. She called out for Max, her voice cracking under the weight of her fear. Silence answered back, heavy and oppressive. She rushed through the living room, eyes darting, scanning every shadow for movement. "Max," she yelled again, desperation clawing at her throat. The cold air nipped at her skin, chilling her to the bone. She felt like she was being drawn into a vortex of dread, a place where hope had no foothold. She paused in the hallway, straining to hear anything, a rustle, a giggle, anything that might indicate her son's whereabouts. Nothing. Then a flicker in the corner of her eye made her heart race. There was a shadow in the den, just beyond the doorway. Goosebumps erupted on her arms as she hesitated, caught between the instinct to run and the overwhelming urge to protect her child. With a trembling breath, she edged toward the doorway, each creak of the floor echoing her terror. "Max?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. The room felt off, cold despite the warmth of the spring air outside, a creeping chill that settled deep within her bones. Suddenly, laughter high-pitched and eerie broke the stillness. It was a sound she'd never heard from her son. It bubbled up from the darkness as if mocking her. She stepped into the doorway, heart hammering. The shadows twisted, shifting into grotesque shapes. As she blinked, they vanished, leaving only the familiar furniture, now draped in an unsettling gloom. Her breath hitched as another laugh rippled through the room, louder this time. "Mommy, come play." A voice sang out, but it didn't belong to Max. The air thickened, and she felt it pressing down on her, squeezing out her resolve. "Where are you?" she pleaded, backing away, panic clawing at her throat. The hallway behind her felt too far, too dark. A small figure darted past her, and she spun around, adrenaline surging. It was Emily, eyes wide and filled with terror. "Mom! They're here!" she shrieked, flinging her arms around Lisa's waist. The weight of success and failure crashed upon Lisa, her heart sank deeper into the abyss of despair. "Who's here?" she choked, scanning the room for an unseen threat. "The neighbors, they're trying to take Max." Emily's voice trembled, and Lisa felt her stomach drop. How could Emily know? Suddenly, the doorbell rang, a chilling sound that echoed through the tense silence, sending her heart racing again. "Stay behind me," Lisa commanded, instincts kicking in. She moved toward the door, each step filled with dread. Through the peephole, she saw Greg standing there, his grin wide, eyes gleaming with something dark. "Lisa! Let me in. We need to talk about Max," he called, voice dripping with urgency. Lisa's mind raced. Talk? Or do something worse? She glanced back at Emily, who was pulling at her sleeve, whispering, "Don't open it, please." But the moment stretched, a terrifying pause. "What do I do?" she thought anxiously, silencing the shout of her heart that cried for safety. Every instinct screamed to smother the lights, lock the doors, and hide. But she couldn't let fear dictate. The shadows had already invaded her life. Was Greg part of that darkness? When the doorbell rang again, she knew she had to decide. "Mom, don't," Emily whimpered, face pale with fear. And as a shiver ran down Lisa's spine, the floor beneath her seemed to quiver, as if alive. Did she step into that darkness? Or hold on, brave and defiant, to the light? The ground trembled beneath her feet as a decision loomed large. She was running out of time, and the truth about her neighborhood was just a heartbeat away. Would she drown in the shadows, or would she find the courage to fight back before it was too late? Lisa's heart thudded like a war drum as she wrestled with the choice: open the door and confront whatever lurked on the other side, or barricade herself and Emily within. The shadows in her home had become tangible, as though they were living, breathing entities, whispering secrets in a language she could not understand. "Mom!" Emily hissed, pulling tighter at her shirt. Lisa felt the weight of her daughter's fear. It settled like lead in her stomach. Greg's shouts echoed in her mind, a cacophony of predatory intent masked as concern. "Open up, Lisa. We just want to help." "Help?" Lisa whispered, the word slippery on her tongue. The memories of neighborhood barbecues and friendly faces began to twist, melting into something menacing. She looked at Emily. "We need to get to the kitchen, now." With Emily's tiny hand in hers, she dashed toward the back of the house, glancing one last time at the door before stepping into the kitchen. It felt like entering a refuge, but every window loomed like a gaping maw, expecting to swallow them whole. "Lock the door," Lisa urged, pushing Emily away toward the back door. As her daughter wrestled with the lock, a thump echoed from the living room, followed by Greg's voice low and sinister. He was inside. "Don't let her hide, Lisa. You can't keep her from us." The warmth from the stove cooking tea chased the chill from her bones. Lisa grabbed a kitchen knife, its metal gleaming ominously in the dim light. She was ready to defend them, but the thought of facing Greg, of acknowledging the horror that had come into their lives, made her stomach flip. "Emily, get under the table. Don't make a sound." Lisa crouched beside her, adrenaline coursing through her veins while the low sound of footsteps approached. Each creak of the floorboards pierced the silence, a countdown to the inevitable confrontation. The footsteps stopped. Lisa held her breath, her fingers tightening around the hilt of the knife. She could feel Emily's little body quivering next to her. Then, the front door swung open. "Lisa. Emily. You can't hide from us." Greg's voice rose, mingling with others a chorus of threats and deceit. Lisa's pulse raced. "Us?" she muttered, terror mixing with confusion. Who was us? Should she have known? Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the kitchen into darkness for a heartbeat. It felt suffocating, closing in on her. Just when she thought she might scream, the lights returned, as though mocking her anxiety. But Emily's frightened gasp drew Lisa's attention. The child's wide eyes reflected something beyond the kitchen, the silhouettes of figures looming in the doorway. "Mommy, they're not just neighbors, they're something else," Emily whispered, voice cracking. "They want Max, but they want us too." Another knock reverberated, louder this time, each thud resonating like a heartbeat loud enough to drown out Lisa's thoughts. "Let us in. We need to talk about the little boy." Lisa's hand trembled around the knife as another realization struck her. Emily was not just frightened, she was seeing something too. She had sensed the darkness swirling around their home, and now it was creeping, clawing to consume them. "Stay quiet," she hissed again, knowing full well they were running out of options. The kitchen door rattled violently, and then, it stopped. Silence engulfed them, a heavy anticipation that felt wrong. "Lisa," Greg's voice drifted through, almost a whisper now, "you know what happens if you don't let us in. You don't want to be here when the sun goes down." Lisa's blood ran cold. She gripped the knife tighter as the shadows seemed to stretch, inching closer, almost alive. Fear wrapped around her heart, tightening its hold. She realized they had lost the advantage of surprise, and her resolve was about to be tested. Suddenly, the lights went out again, and the kitchen plunged into darkness. Lisa felt Emily squeeze her hand. The air turned thick, suffocating her breath. The shadows shifted, encircling them like a predator closing in on its prey. A flash of cold air swept through, sending chills down her spine. "Mom, run!" Emily screamed, but before they could move, the door burst open, revealing the smiling faces of the neighbors, all transformed into horrific visages warped by the dark. In that dreadful moment, Lisa's world tilted, and the true terror of their neighborhood sank in. What had she stepped into, and would she find a way to protect Emily before it swallowed them whole? The room breathed like a beast, and Lisa's heart raced to match its rhythm. They were surrounded, trapped. The neighbors' faces twisted into grotesque smiles, eyes glinting with a feverish hunger. The merging darkness wrapped around their figures, shadows melding with undeniable malice. "Mommy!" Emily's voice trembled, snapping Lisa from her trance. "Stay close!" Lisa barked, her voice shaky yet resolute. She pushed the knife deeper into her grip, staring defiantly at the throng of familiar beings now distorted by darkness. "Let her go, Lisa." Greg crouched low, his voice laced with a sickening sweetness. "She's with us now. We just want what's best for her." The warmth of the kitchen slowly leached away, siphoned by the cold dread coiling inside Lisa's bones. She could feel the air thickening, like molasses. She turned to the back door where Emily had locked it moments before. Would it hold? There was no time for doubt. "Together," she whispered, voice tight with fear. "We'll get out, just follow my lead." The figures reached forward, their limbs impossibly long, grotesque hands stretching with predatory intent. Lisa reacted instinctively, darting towards the back door. The knife glinted in the dim light as she plunged it into the fraying wood of the door frame. "Mom! What are you doing?" Emily's voice was half horror, half disbelief. "Making sure it holds," Lisa shouted, adrenaline fueling her actions. The neighbors laughed, a sound that slithered into her ears like a snake, coiling around her mind. "You think you can escape us? That door won't save you." Greg's voice dripped with mockery, slithering like oil through her thoughts. She twisted the blade, splintering the wood, praying it would last just long enough. The door rattled under the weight of hands pressed against it from the outside. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, strobing like a heartbeat. Lisa caught glimpses of monstrous grins, eyes wide with malicious glee, hunched forms shifting like shadows intent on hunting. "Down, Emily!" Lisa shouted, howling above the sound of her fear. She turned, crouching low to protect her daughter. Emily was shaking, petrified, eyes darting toward the encroaching figures. "Mommy!" Emily cried, her voice a high-pitched wail. "You must listen, Emily. Whatever happens, don't let go." Lisa's voice cracked, but she kept her gaze fixed on the mass of horrors lurking beyond the door. Then came the sound like thunder. The neighbors slammed against the barricade she had just fought to set. Lisa's heart nearly stopped. With every impact, the walls trembled, as did her resolve. "Let us in, Lisa." Their voices blurred into a chant, growing louder, more insistent. "We know what's best for you. We can share the darkness together. Shut up. You're not welcome here." Lisa screamed, desperation taking hold. A flash of memory flickered behind her eyes, glances exchanged over barbecue grills, laughter on sunny afternoons. Those moments faded, replaced by fear and horror which wrapped around her mind like ivy, choking her thoughts. "Please, Mom." Emily trembled, her breath hitching in her throat. It was her daughter's raw fear that ignited the last flicker of resolve within Lisa. "Hold on." With a surge of energy, she bolted to the window, yanking aside the curtain. But before she could see the outside world, something cold and dark gripped her wrist, pulling her back. "Going somewhere?" Greg's voice hissed, resounding in her ear. "No." Lisa gasped. She struggled to shake free, but the darkness clung tightly. "Stay with us, Lisa, forever." Suddenly, the kitchen light surged, illuminating the visage of her neighbor's deranged expressions frozen in a manic rapture. In that blinding moment, everything seemed to pause. What had once been her ordinary world dissolved around her, leaving only terror. The suffocating dread was nearly unbearable. Lisa couldn't let herself be taken. Not without Emily. Before she could react, a sickening whisper threaded through the air, a promise. "We'll find you wherever you go." And in an instant, the light flickered again, plunging them back into darkness. Lisa felt the knife slip from her fingers, clattering to the floor. The cold grip of the shadows tightened. Panic surged through her. Their laughter echoed around her, a chilling clamor that spiraled into madness. "Run!" she yelled, but the word felt hollow, lost in the chaos. Then, the kitchen door splintered wide open. Would they truly find escape, or was the embrace of darkness inevitable? The door crashed against the wall, revealing a gaping maw of shadows, an abyss that seemed to pull at the very essence of light. Lisa's eyes widened as she caught a glimpse of the other side, a swirling mass of darkness, flickered with ominous faint glimmers, like dying stars caught in a void. "Mommy!" Emily shrieked, but her voice was lost in the cacophony of chaos. The neighbors surged forward into the kitchen, eager tendrils of shadow crawling closer, ready to drag them into the depths. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. "Back, back!" she yelled, shielding Emily with her body. Heart pounding, she stumbled back further into the kitchen, searching for an escape in the press of horror looming close. To her right was the refrigerator, a dull haven amid the madness. A wild idea burst in her mind. The back window. Though it felt stupidly naive, they needed to break free. She pushed past the rattling drawers and cabinets, her instinct screaming to keep moving. "Help me!" Emily grabbed the hem of her shirt, her small fingers trembling. "Just a little further." Lisa wheezed, her voice was hoarse. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the hysterical laughter that surrounded them. As they reached the back wall, Eric, one of the neighbors, barreled toward them, eyes wide with a lunacy Lisa had never seen in him before. "It's so much better with us, don't you see?" Desperation gripped her heart. "No, Eric. You're not you anymore." She reached for the window, yanking at the latch. It jammed, the rusted metal refusing to budge. "Push harder, Mommy," Emily pleaded, her voice a mere whisper, yet holding all the weight of desperation. A sickening crack echoed as the kitchen wall shuddered from the impending tide of bodies pressing in closer. Lisa threw her weight against the window, a primal force igniting her. The latch clicked, giving way, but the window frame resisted, splintering with a tortured groan. "Smash it! Break it!" Emily screamed, without hesitation. Lisa grabbed a nearby chair, lifting it high above her head. Time slowed as the gleaming wood glinted ominously before her. With a roar of defiance, she swung it down against the glass. The shattering sound screamed through the chaos, shards exploding outward like a crystal explosion, yet the moment the glass broke, a rush of darkness swept into the room, filling her lungs with despair. Breaching the threshold, the shadow shifted. It was no longer just a backdrop, it was alive, pulsating like a heart. Lisa barely registered the sensation of invisibility wrapping around her feet as if the floor was swallowing her whole. "We're coming for you," a chorus of taunting whispers followed, slithering through her mind, kindling terror in her heart. "Climb through," Lisa urged, urgency eclipsing caution. Pushing Emily towards the jagged opening, she followed, her body twisting through the framing like a rabbit escaping a hound. Just as they fell out, a hand shot through the window, grasping at fabric. Lisa whirled around, catching sight of Greg's grotesque face, frozen in a nightmare smile. "You can't escape us. Run, Emily, run!" Lisa screamed. They bolted into the darkened yard, but the night air felt thick and heavy, clutching at their lungs with unseen claws. The shadows coiled around them, twisting and turning, creating an oppressive force that bent space and reason. They raced past familiar landmarks, the swing set, the oak tree, but every step felt surreal, as if the world was warping around them. "Where do we go?" Emily cried, glancing back at the house, the lightless windows staring as if watching them flee. "The other side of the street," Lisa shouted, desperation blending with hope. The dread rippling through her became a tangible force, akin to a vicious predator hunting its prey. Suddenly, a chill washed over them. The laughter echoed closer. They needed to take cover. Behind them, the gnarled forms began to seep from the shadows, their figures elongating, postures shifting, driven forward with a relentless hunger. Lisa felt a prick at the back of her neck, the paralyzing sensation of the encroaching darkness. "Mommy, please." Emily tugged at her hand. Almost there, Lisa gasped, a wild look in her eyes. They sprinted toward the shadows of a nearby telephone pole, a fleeting sanctuary offering no real safety, but it was all they had. In that vulnerable moment, Lisa paused. They had separated from the threat for now. But something crackled in the air, unsettling and bitter. She could feel it, a bleak possibility lurking around the corner, waiting. The shadows began to swirl around them, pulsing as if alive. And then, from the depths of darkness came Greg's voice, sharper now. "You'll never be free, Lisa will always be here." Lisa turned towards Emily, heart trembling with fear and resolve. Together, she breathed, knowing their survival was a delicate balance, and the nightmare was far from over. But as they huddled in the deepening darkness, that unease gnawed at her mind. What awaited them in the next moment? She could sense something else stirring in the night. Then came the unmistakable sound, an ominous rustle nearby, as if something was drawing nearer, and it wasn't just the shadows. "Mom?" Emily shivered, gripping her tighter. What was lurking just beyond their sight? Would it be friend or foe? The rustling intensified, each sound sending fresh shivers coursing down Lisa's spine. Fear painted her thoughts in frantic strokes. She glanced at Emily, who was clinging to her, eyes wide and glistening with tears. "Stay close to me," Lisa whispered, her voice barely rising above the growing chaos around them. As the shadows pulsed, chunks of darkness broke away, slithering through the air like venomous serpents, darting toward them. "Mom, I'm scared," Emily said, the tremble in her voice driving another pang of dread through Lisa's heart. "I know, sweetheart. But we have to be brave," she replied, trying to calm both her daughter and herself. Yet, with every heartbeat, the weight of despair pressed harder upon them. Just then, a figure emerged from the haze, a dark silhouette that shape-shifted, morphing into something grotesque. Its mouth twisted into a grin, sharp teeth gleaming within the depths of the darkened face. Lisa's stomach dropped. Without thinking, she pulled Emily to her side. "Run!" With a primal urgency, they darted away from the pole, into the open embrace of the yard. Their breaths were ragged as they barreled forward, pushing through the clinging shadows that sought to wrap around them like a suffocating shroud. The world around them felt like a nightmare, distorted and twisted. "Where are we going?" Emily cried out, her little legs straining to keep pace. "Just anywhere away from them," Lisa answered, panic clawing at her thoughts. She couldn't think straight. The darkness felt alive, watching, waiting for just the right moment to pounce. As they sprinted, flashes of light streaked across the sky. It caught her attention, a flicker of hope in the horizon. A house? Maybe they could find safety there. But just as they rounded the corner of the yard, something cold and slick brushed against Lisa's ankle. She looked down, thick, black tendrils of shadow creeping towards her, reacting to her every move. With a scream, she yanked her foot away, but the grip of the darkness only tightened. "Mom!" Emily shrieked, panic overtaking her. "Keep running. Go!" Lisa shouted, forcing herself to move forward, dragging the shadows with her, fighting against the unnatural weight trying to hold her back. They dove toward the street, where flickering streetlights cast weak halos of safety. The laughter faded momentarily, but the oppressive feeling hung in the air like a storm ready to break. "Over there." Lisa pointed to an unoccupied house across the street. No lights shone from the windows, but it felt like their only option. They dashed toward it, the darkness hissing close at their heels. As they reached the porch, Lisa slammed against the door, pounding her fist against the cold wood. "Open up. Please." But no reply came. Terrified, she turned her back to the door, watching the shadows twist and turn, writhe like a living entity. "They're coming, Mommy," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. Lisa felt the weight of dread building within her, drowning out any flicker of hope. "We need to find a way in." She glanced around, spotting a window slightly ajar, a glimmer of salvation. Racing toward it, her heart thumping loudly, she pushed Emily ahead. "Climb in." As Emily scrambled through the opening, Lisa heard the cacophony of laughter swell behind her. The darkness was surging, closing in. "Mom! Hurry!" Emily echoed from inside, the urgency sparking Lisa's instincts further. Lisa shoved herself toward the window, feeling the icy grip brush the back of her neck. She squeezed through just as Greg's shadowed face appeared across the yard, features marred by sinister delight. "Now you are trapped," he jeered, the shadows swirling around him like predators ready to strike. "What do we do?" Emily pleaded as Lisa tumbled inside, breathing heavily, the air thick and heavy with dread. Lisa turned toward the dank interior. Every creak of the old house echoed like a whispered warning. They were not alone. And the shadows were still hungry. Then came a threatening thud from the darkened hallway beyond the living room. Something else was there, waiting for them. "Stay." "Behind me," Lisa whispered, every instinct screaming that danger was rising, duplicating, readying to pounce. But as Lisa slowly moved into the shadows, she heard a second rustling different from the first, something more menacing, more deliberate. "Mommy, what's that?" Emily's voice broke the silence, a tremor cutting through her words, and then, just beyond the gloom, a pair of deep-set eyes blinked, piercing and hungry. Lisa's heart raced. They hadn't escaped the nightmare yet. What new terror was hidden in the corners of the house? Would they find refuge or a new horror waiting to consume them? Lisa's breath came quicker, panic flooding her veins. The weight of those eyes bore down, heavy with malice. "Emily, stay close," she whispered, gritting her teeth against the dread clenching her stomach. Against every instinct, she took a step deeper into the shadows, trying to calm the storm in her mind. "Don't leave me." Emily's voice quivered, a fragile echo of trust. Lisa's heart stuttered. She turned just as a shape moved into the edge of the dim light. A figure, jagged and disjointed, slinked forward, a grotesque marionette with no strings. The shadows that curled around it were thicker, more alive, swollen with a darkness that felt hungry. Each step it took sent waves of nausea through Lisa. "Run!" she shouted, but Emily hesitated, wide-eyed, rooted in place. "Mom, what go now?" The command jolted Emily into motion. She dashed down the hallway, the wooden floor creaking beneath her small feet, as Lisa tore after her, adrenaline surging. They skirted past the doorway, but as Lisa glanced back, the figure grinned, its eyes glowing faintly, hungry for what it had missed. "Mommy!" Emily's scream sliced through the air again. "Don't look back, keep going," Lisa urged, barely able to swallow past the panic rising in her throat. They burst into another room, a faded living room where dust motes hung like ghosts in the shafts of moonlight. A giant spiderweb draped across one corner, glistening like a net of despair. But one piece caught Lisa's eye, a door at the far end, slightly ajar. "Through there." She pointed, hope flickering amid the terror. But as they made for the door, the sound of scratching echoed from the walls. Claws raking against wood. The shadows twisted around them, thickening, squeezing the air from the room. "Lock it. Lock the door," Emily cried, scrambling ahead, her small hands trembling as she fumbled with the doorknob. Lisa reached for her daughter, but the scratching intensified. There was something else now, a low growl emanating from somewhere close, forcing her to fight the urge to turn. "Mommy!" Emily squeaked as she finally shoved the door open, careening inside. Lisa pushed through just as the door behind them shuddered violently. Inside, there was no escape. The walls were lined with old, grotesque paintings of twisted faces, stretched expressions frozen in horror. And in the center of the room, a mirror stood tall, its surface blackened and cracked. "Do you see it?" Lisa asked Emily, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you see anything?" Emily shook her head, eyes darting wildly around the room, but the mirror seemed to draw in the light, reflecting some malevolent presence. The growl from behind them was louder now, closer, vibrating through the air. "What's behind us?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Don't look." Lisa turned towards the mirror, feeling a surge of dread wash over her. She grabbed Emily's shoulders, shaking her slightly to bring focus back to her daughter's eyes. "We need to find another way." But the sound of claws scratching against the wall turned into a rush of teeth, gnashing as shadows flowed under the doorway, twisting, curling, eager to draw them in. The temperature dropped, they could see their breaths cloud in front of them. Before Lisa could form a plan, the mirror began to shimmer, the darkness inside swirling as if it were alive. A pair of eyes blinked back at them within that pitch-black expanse, reflecting the same hunger she had seen moments ago. "Mom, it's in there." Emily gasped, her voice breaking. Lisa tightened her grip, and for a moment everything froze. The scratching stopped. The growling faded into an anticipatory silence. Something terrible lived in that mirror, something that wanted out. Lisa came a voice, not from her daughter but from the mirror itself, deep, echoing, terrifying. "Do you dare peek inside?" The air thickened, closing in around them. With nowhere left to run, Lisa's heartbeat pounded in her ears. "Mommy?" The soft quiver in Emily's voice pulled her back. What choice was left? The hunger in the room felt potent, urgent. Lisa felt the walls closing in, shadows creeping closer. Would they step forward into the unknown, or could salvation still lie hidden ahead? Before they could decide, the world around them began to tremble. The door shuddered violently, and the mirror rippled as if something was about to break free. What awaited them on the other side? The mirror pulsed, its surface shifting like a living thing. Lisa could hardly breathe as she watched those dark eyes flicker. Was it her imagination, or did the cry of 1,000 trapped souls echo from behind that fractured glass? The air felt electric, charged with the dread of what was to come. "Mommy, I don't want to," Emily whimpered, her small body trembling against Lisa's grip. "What if it comes out?" "We won't let that happen," Lisa whispered, but even she felt the uncertainty leaking into her voice. They were cornered. Suddenly, the door slammed against the wall, and the dreadful scratching resumed, a relentless fury of nails on wood. It felt as if something was determined to break through, shattering their fragile moment of pause. "Mom, we have to go," Emily urged again, her eyes wide, tears glimmering in the dim light, reflecting her fear. "First, we have to," but the words died in Lisa's throat as the mirror erupted into a chaos of shadows. A distorted face emerged, twisted and taunting, mouthing words in a language that felt ancient and sinister. A chill ran down Lisa's spine. It was beckoning them. "No, no," Lisa gasped, dragging Emily back. Yet the girl's feet were already moving, inching closer to that dreadful mirror, their reflections swirling ominously across the glass. "Look!" Emily's voice rang out, not in fear but in a strange adult fascination. "It's showing us our life." Lisa squinted, not wanting to believe her daughter. But as the image shifted, she saw scenes play out, snippets of their happiness, their lives together before everything turned dark. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, the two of them reading in bed. But just as quickly, the images warped, morphing into darker memories, the argument with her husband, the night they found the house, the screams. "Emily, you can't let it get in your head," Lisa warned, pulling her daughter back desperately. But it was already too late. The mirror sang, a haunting melody laden with sorrow. With a sudden rush, the door jerked open fully, and the room spiraled in noise and shadow. The growling returned, a menacing roar that filled every crevice and crawled up Lisa's spine. "It's coming!" She screamed, instinctively shielding Emily as if she could block whatever horror was about to unleash. The figure spilled over the threshold, a mass of darkness and claws, its grin glinted with sharp, unholy teeth as it lunged forward. Lisa felt the shaking in the ground, the walls threatening to cave in. It was closing in, its presence a suffocating weight. "Mommy!" Emily's scream pierced through the cacophony. "Not like this. We won't die here." A surge of fire ignited in Lisa's chest. In a desperate act, she crossed towards the mirror, clutching Emily tightly. "We have to believe it won't take us, that we are stronger." She pressed her hands against the cool surface, feeling the vibration of the darkness throbbing beneath her palms. Gritting her teeth, she whispered, "You don't have power over us. We choose our fate." The room went silent. The figure recoiled, hesitation passing over its jagged features. The mirror rippled, reality bending around them. Their reflections began to pull back, forcing the darkness from the threshold as if it had been drained. Just then, a low growl vibrated from deep within the mirror, shaking the very core of the room. "Release me." In that moment of chaos, Lisa felt a sudden, horrifying clarity. The creature was not just a mindless beast, it was something much worse, a vengeful spirit, yearning to take their place. What would happen if they succeeded? Would they lose themselves entirely? With a wild scream, she pulled Emily back toward the door, but the mirror resisted, drawing her deeper into its depths. "Mom!" Emily cried, her voice cracking that in a split second, the floor splintered and shattered beneath them. The mirror shattered, light pouring from it, a violent countercurrent to the growl rising behind them. And just when Lisa thought they were safe, she felt the cold grip of a shadow wrap around her ankle, pulling her back from the threshold. As she fell, everything went dark. What awaited them now, in this void of terror, and could they ever escape the clutches of that ravenous darkness? Darkness enveloped Lisa, a suffocating blanket that clung to her skin, wrapping her in a dread that felt alive. She couldn't tell where she began or ended, there was no ground beneath her feet, just a swirling abyss of shadows and whispers. The world she'd known vanished, leaving only fear in its wake. "Mommy!" Emily's cry sliced through the void, a beacon of urgency and pain. Lisa instinctively reached for her, but her hands grasped nothing but thin air. Panic surged through her veins. Where was her daughter? "Emily!" she shouted, voice hoarse, lost in the oppressive silence. It felt like being swallowed alive, every sound muffled by an unseen hand. And then she saw it. A flicker of movement, a shape skimming through the darkness. It was a child, but not Emily. Its eyes glinted with an unnatural light, hollow and searching. Lisa's heart raced. The uncertainty wore at her, the figure was closer now, its smile too wide, stretching across its face just a moment before it vanished. "Mommy!" Emily's voice echoed again, filled with desperation. Lisa forced herself forward, compelled by the strength of maternal instinct. The shadows shifted, a wave of chilling breath brushed past her, and she felt the raw weight of something watching. The primal urge to escape surged within her, but she couldn't abandon Emily. "Stay with me, baby. I'm coming." Her cries bounced off the unseen walls, but there was no reply, only the sound of greeting whispers growing louder, more insistent. They spoke with a rhythm that twisted her thoughts, trying to reveal a nightmare that lay just out of reach. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a surface, a rough, cracked floor beneath her feet. The oppressive darkness constricted, and as she blinked against the dim light, she found herself back in the basement, but something felt fundamentally wrong. The mirror lay in ruins, shards glimmering in disarray, each piece reflecting a distorted version of her surroundings. That's when she realized, the mirror wasn't gone. Its remnants pulsed, still connected to whatever terrible force had tried to pull them in. The growling returned, low and rumbling, reverberating through her very bones. Lisa spun around, breath caught in her throat. The creature was not just a phantom, it was amalgamating, finding its form from the darkness. Sharp claws scratched against the floor, and its eyes glowed like embers, full of fury and hunger. "Release me," it roared low, a voice that felt both familiar and foreign, thrumming with dark nostalgia. The air turned icy, and Lisa could barely hold on to her sanity, the edges of her mind fraying. "Emily!" she cried again, desperately searching the room, but only darkness answered. Could she fight this beast alone? Was Emily in its clutches? Without thinking, instinct kicked in. Lisa lunged for the shards of the mirror, hoping against hope that something could be salvaged. She picked up a jagged piece, its reflection barely illuminating her determined face. "That's all you are, a reflection. You don't own us," she screamed, charging toward the creature. The shadows shrank back from her rage, momentarily stunned. But as she raised the shard, a shattering roar erupted, causing the walls to tremble around her. Emotions swirled. Would anger empower her or undo her? "Mommy." Emily's voice pierced through the chaos like a siren, clinging to her last thread of hope. The darkness pulsed hungrily. It was thirsty for despair, for more. It would not allow a mother to take back her child so easily. With a deep, shuddering breath, Lisa knew she had a decision to make: act now or risk losing everything. Would she find a way to confront the shadows that had fractured their lives? Or would she unravel altogether, becoming just another soul trapped in the reflections of that terrible mirror? And somewhere, deep within the murk, a question lingered: who would emerge from this fight, the mother or the darkness? Lisa's heart thundered in her chest as the shadowed figure pulsed before her. It loomed, an ever-shifting mass of dark turmoil and malevolence, whispering promises of escape and despair in the same breath. "Emily! Stay away!" she shouted, every word drenched in urgency. The creature's hunger felt instant, palpable, a dark abyss drawing closer with every breath she took. But the room around her filled with echoes, her daughter's cries bouncing off the walls like a ghostly choir. "Help me!" Emily's voice rose in desperation. It urged Lisa forward. Time suspended. She had lost her child before. This wouldn't happen again. "No!" she shouted, the shard in her hand catching a glimmer of light. "You don't own us." Fueled by a mother's rage, Lisa bolted forward, heart in her throat as she swung the glass shard toward the creature, a determination surging within her. The split second felt like an eternity. The shard sliced through the air as it approached the writhing figure, which recoiled with a howl that shook the very foundations of the house. "You're nothing but a twisted reflection. You think you can take my child?" The creature pulsed angrily, sharp claws slashing toward her, but Lisa was swift. "Stay down!" she screamed as she plunged the shard deep into the ground. A shimmering cascade erupted, rippling through the darkness like a shockwave. Light poured from the shards, illuminating the legendary darkness that had consumed her life. With each pulse of light, pieces of the shadowy figure splintered, shrieking as they tried to regroup, trying to reclaim their hold on the world. "Mom! I'm scared." Emily's voice broke the spell, grounding Lisa even more. Tears flowed from Lisa's eyes, a flood of despair and defiance. "I'm coming, baby. Hold on." As the remnants of the shadows twisted and thrashed, the ground shimmered. Another flicker caught her eye. A reflection glinted in one of the shards, a small silhouette darting across the edge of the room. "Emily!" Lisa called again with raw fierceness, rushing toward the glimmer. The shadows swirled violently around her, but terror transformed into a furious rush of adrenaline. Lisa reached the shard's glimmer, a door. She thrust the fragmented glass aside and wrenched the door open. "Come on!" In that moment, every ounce of dread and anger collapsed into resolve. "We are stronger!" she roared, pushing against the darkness that tried to claw its way back. The shadows hissed, crackling violently as she and Emily surged forward. Emily stumbled out, and in a dizzying swirl of light and darkness, they embraced. The hall of shadows receded, retreating back into hidden corners, trapped where it belonged. "Mommy, you did it!" Emily's voice lit Lisa's heart anew. "I couldn't have done it without you, my love." "We did it together," Lisa replied, brushing back Emily's messy hair, feeling the warmth of her daughter wash over her like a protective shield. But there was no time to linger. The tendrils of darkness had not fully surrendered. Lisa forced herself to focus. "We have to find the way out, sweetheart. We can't let it regroup." They ran down the hallway, shadows snapping at their heels, hungry for a new chance to snatch them back into their despair. With frantic urgency, they burst through one last door, emerging amidst the dim orange glow of setting sun. The outside world spread before them as if they'd awakened from a dream, transforming the haunting night into sunshine. Together they made it into the wide-open expanse of their yard, where the flickering remnants of darkness stirred uneasily. "Stay close," Lisa urged as she turned, checking every corner. The world felt different now, alive with danger but also with hope. Behind them, the house loomed dark and twisted, a malignant heart still pulsing with shadows. But they were free. "It's okay, Mama," Emily whispered, eyes filled with wonder. "We're safe now." Outside, the neighborhood was still eerily quiet, as if the air held its breath. Lisa inhaled the fresh air deep into her lungs, feeling the weight of every fear and every trial lift from her shoulders. "I think we can do this," Lisa admitted softly. They could reclaim the neighborhood that had turned sinister, fire up the humor and warmth that had once built community among them. They could rebuild. As they headed toward the street, Lisa felt the tension beginning to fade. There were others out there, braving the darkness, and they could face it together. She held Emily close as they walked toward the horizon, both lost in the semblance of normalcy. It would take time, but they had each other. The faces of their neighbors flickered in her mind beyond the distorted terror. She would find a way to show them light again. Feeling the love radiating between them, she squeezed Emily's hand tightly. "We're going to be okay." And as they stepped beyond the grasp of darkness, they left it behind, finally free. But somewhere deep in the shadows, a whisper lingered, "We will meet again, this is the moment." You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are just around the corner. Smash the like button right now to help the algorithm spread the love. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments below with your reactions, interpretations, and wild theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Support the channel and let us build this community together.